Hi, Raj. So
Hey,
nice to
Katrina.
see you.
How are you?
Oh, so many years that I haven't seen you.
I think many years, no?
I'm fine.
Are you guys working from home?
Yes, we are still working from home. We have quarantine. Well, actually, it's now more flexible, but at the UN system, the decision is that we will work remotely until 20th of October.
Oh, it's not that far, no? It's
No,
close.
not that far. And after that, we don't know yet if we are going to return. And I guess if we return, it will be not on the full capacity. So,
Yeah. I mean, in headquarters, they are doing in 3 phases, 10%, 10 to 40%, and then full. So we are in phase
yes,
2. Right? You should know that.
Are you in phase 2 right now?
Yeah. So we are in
So
phase
you're
2.
at the office, I see. It
I am
seems
in
your
the
office.
Yeah, I've just finished session with Iraq like at 10:30 a.m., which is now it's 15 minutes before, after speaking for 3 hours. We started at 7:30 a.m. till 10:30. And it's not easy to do this big session at home because then home everything gets disturbed. No?
Yes, I understand. Well, you have 15 minutes. So if you want to get a coffee or relax.
Yeah, I saw you joining. That's why I thought I'll just say hello and then I will mute again.
Yes,
Because I
sure.
get the message.
Okay.
Because it's my Zoom account. So when anybody joins, I get a message that somebody has joined. So I got the notification. Okay, then I'll connect again in 10 minutes. Okay, I'll be online, but I'm just stopping my...
Sure. Thank you, Raj.
Thank you. Bye. Hey, Tatiana, can we start sometime soon?
Hi, Rush. Hey, hold on. I want to see if Rinko is still not there. Can we wait, please, a few
No,
minutes?
no, we can wait.
Check
Nobody. How much time do we have?
Actually, we have scheduled 2 hours. I don't know if you need those hours, but we will start soon. I just wish that Rinko can join.
No, I'll wait. Don't worry.
Okay, great.
That's fine. How many staff you have in the office? 48?
Yeah, 46 actually. But I know that some of the colleagues won't be able to make it. So.
No, I think the 2 post vacancy, 46. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, the Rinko is already there.
She's there?
Good morning.
Hey,
Yes.
good morning.
Hello, Raj.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Busy. I just finished
Thank
one
you so
session
much
with
for
Iraq at
yeah.
10:30. Yeah. No problem. Okay. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much. I'm fine. Yeah, everything is good. How is Panama?
I am in New York.
Oh, you are in New York?
Yeah.
How is New York? I thought you are in Panama City. Yeah. Are you working from office now?
In New York, we are in phase 2, which means 10 to 40% people can work from office, and my home is very close to the office, so it's like walking commute. So I come to office because I have this long session, and from home it's very challenging because then nobody else can do anything. But we live in Manhattan. Manhattan is a very small place in terms of apartments, so we don't have the big houses.
Yeah, I was in New York. I was on the Roosevelt Island when I was in
I'm
New York.
on 2nd Avenue and 39th Street, which is right next to the office. So it's a
that's
close,
great. Yeah.
small apartment. Yeah.
Mm.
You are with
I guess
UNFPA,
it's getting a bit.
Were you with UNFPA? No.
No, I was with UNICEF.
No, UNICEF. Okay.
When I was in New York. Yeah. Okay, so I think, Tatiana, are we waiting for...
Yes, I think we can start. So I want to thank everyone for their interest to be in this session. And first of all, I would like to introduce Rush Gacker. I know Rush for many years, and I can attest he's a very warm person and also an outstanding professional whom I respect and from whom I have learned a lot during these years. When I met Rush, he was the operations manager in the India country office, and he became later international operations manager in other Asian countries. And right now he's working as audit, monitoring, and ERM specialist in the office of the executive director in New York. It is an honor to have him with us today to facilitate this session of UNFPA Enterprise Risk Management, even more considering that Rush has been part of the team that has developed the online tool for assessing corporate risks with the aim to help the organization to monitor and respond to those risks. Before Rush starts the session, I want to pass the floor to Rinko, who will explain the importance of the ERM risk assessment for our office.
Gracias, Tatiana. Creo que tenemos que hablar en español. Después voy a traducir a Raj en dos palabras o no, dos frases. Buenos días a todas y todos. Espero que estén bien todos. Muchas gracias por estar aquí hoy. Bueno, Tatiana ya presentó al señor Raj. Estoy muy feliz de tener presencia del señor Raj, que es como padre de ERM. Está muy familiarizada con este Enterprise Risk Management, ¿no? Así que muchísimas gracias, Raj, por tu disponibilidad y presentación, facilitación que vas a hacer para nosotros. Solo quería destacar dos mensajes, ¿no? Normalmente este ejercicio de Enterprise Risk Management, la sede de UNFPA ha identificado 30 oficinas de alto riesgo, ¿no? Y nosotros, nuestra oficina no está dentro de esa lista. Sin embargo, nuestra sede está recomendando otras oficinas también que no estén dentro de estas 30 oficinas, hacer este ejercicio, sobre todo cuando la situación en el país está cambiando rápidamente, ¿no? Y nosotros, en consultación con Tatiana y Celia, hemos pensado que sería bueno que nuestra oficina actualice biblioteca de riesgos, porque ustedes ya tienen riesgos identificados antes, pero no ha sido actualizado. Y también actualizar, tener un plan de mitigación, ¿no? Mitigación. En Japón tenemos una manera de decir que es cuando analizamos bien enemigo o no enemigo o alguien que están confrontando nosotros. Cuando analizamos este enemigo, podríamos tomar medidas para mitigar riesgos y podríamos ganar. Así que no, creo que este dicho, ¿no? En Japón significa que sí tenemos que analizar el contexto actual, sobre todo la pandemia de COVID-19 ha cambiado, nuestra manera de trabajar, ¿no? Hasta ahora estamos en la casa. Habíamos tenido hacer algunas modificaciones a nuestra manera de trabajar porque ya no podemos viajar al campo, ya no podemos ir a la oficina, etcétera. Y eso sigue, está evolucionando, ya vamos a tener una fase de retorno progresivo a la oficina, pero es importante pensar estos cambios. También la pandemia ha afectado en diferentes aspectos de sociedad, ¿no? Socioeconómicos, impactos socioeconómicos. Eso tenemos que analizar e identificar riesgos que tenemos que tomar acciones, ¿no? Para mitigación. Y otra cosa es la situación de sociopolítica en el país, que ya todos estamos enterados, que vamos a pasar este periodo electoral y próximo año vamos a tener elecciones locales y el nuevo gobierno comienza ya a instaurar. Así que tenemos que también tomar en cuenta cuáles serían implicaciones programáticas o implicaciones para nuestra operación o nuestro monitoreo de estos cambios, ¿no? Digamos, del contexto del país. Así que nos parecía oportuno, ¿no? De organizar este ejercicio aprovechando este momento, queremos capacitar a nuestro equipo sobre esta metodología y luego ya vamos a entrar en ejercicio, ¿no? Para sacar riesgos identificados y plan de mitigación para implementación de estos planes, ¿no? Quiero agradecer también a Tatiana y Rolando Pardo, que son como puntos focales para organizar este ejercicio, ¿no? Después de presentación de Raj. Así que Raji, thank you so much for your participation today, facilitation. We are not among the 30 high-risk office units to do the ERM as a mandatory exercise. But in consultation with Celia and Tatiana, we thought that our office needs to do this exercise right now because of the pandemic, which has changed many aspects of our working style, how to work, business, how to do the business. And the pandemic has also brought a lot of impacts, socioeconomic impacts to this country and also worldwide. So we are working on the recovery phase, no? So that has to be taken into account. And also we are going through the changes, drastic change in socioeconomic and political situation right now. We are having presidential elections on the 18th of October, which is around the corner. And we may have the second run in November, we don't know yet. And then next year, we will have the local elections. So, we are going through this transition period now, and together with the pandemic, the crisis, I would say, it's very relevant and I would say perfect timing for us to go through the risk areas and analyze, and then identify the risk mitigation plan to implement, mostly for next year, no? I think that will be very helpful for our office to deliver, continue delivering the results that we have committed in our CPD with the government. So thank you so much, Raj. With that, I'm going to pass the microphone to you for your presentation. And I think, Tatiana, we will do the presentation in English, and then we will have the translation with support from Gustavo, is it?
Yes, actually, if there are any questions, I have asked the colleagues to put them into the chat box so that Gustavo can translate them.
Okay, great. Yeah. So Raj, floor is for you, over to you. And thank you again for your time and availability.
Okay, thank you, Rinko. First of all, I'm extremely impressed with your Spanish. I wasn't sure that are you Spanish or you're from Japan, right?
I'm from Japan. Yes.
Yeah, because from the name it appears that you're from Japan, and then I was thinking, how come a Japanese person is working in Bolivia? So before I ask question, you actually answered it. So perfect, excellent Spanish. First of all, my apologies to all the colleagues who are joining that I cannot speak Spanish. So my apologies. I started learning Spanish last year in 2019, but then I got sick and I had to leave in between. So I did some course, but maybe I have to continue again. I could pick up some words when you're speaking, but not everything. So my apologies once again. And I'm happy that you have already made some arrangement for the translation, little bit at the question. And also if Tatiana feels that something you need to repeat in Espanol, please feel free to interrupt me and then I can stop and you can repeat that in the language. Okay. You know that we are doing this kind of facilitation for 30 country offices. You already mentioned in your opening statement. But what I will do, I will try to speak slowly. So allow me to speak slowly, because sometimes if you speak fast, then for non-English speaker, it is difficult to catch up. So I will try my best to speak slowly. But I'm from India, and Indians are like very fast talker. I speak very fast otherwise. So if I speak fast, please interrupt me. No offense taken. I know I have a weakness of speaking fast. So when I speak slowly, I have to make an effort to speak slowly. So I may lose that control and I may start speaking fast again. So interrupt me. Okay. And thank you for this.
No problem, Raj.
Okay.
Gracias, Raj.
And then I was thinking, in terms of presentation, and today morning we did the 29th country facilitation today of Iraq, from morning 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. And then I thought I'll take half an hour break and then I'll do for the Bolivia. So I was just thinking, because you are a little bit differently placed. With other country office, the facilitation was of different style. With you, it is slightly different. So I may have to change the course of discussion. Please bear with me in that sense, okay? But before I start, let me, okay. I don't know how many of you who have, I'm happy to see almost whole country office joining, and thank you once again, gracias. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the whole ERM cycle, but in terms of 2020 assessment cycle, we have made some changes in the cycle in terms of new risk factor. But before I go there, a little bit on logistics. Right now, if you go to participant list, you will see I am connected with two devices. One is my iPad, from where you can see me and hear me. And then I have my laptop. Since we are so used to having remote meetings now, so I have to keep a backup in place. So this is also part of risk management. So if one connection breaks, don't get panic, I will connect again. And then I also have a phone. In worst scenario, I'll connect with phone. So I hope one of them will stay. Both will not go down at the same time. So that's the logistic part. Secondly, I already apologize for the language and I will try to speak slowly. Thirdly, if possible, those who are not speaking, you can keep your phone muted. But if you are in a non-noisy environment, then you can also keep it on. I have no issue. Because I also want to make this session a little bit interactive, where I may ask some question, you can answer, so that it's not one way, blah, blah, blah transmission. So we both can talk to each other as we are sitting face to face. Just a bit of background on the whole ERM assessment cycle. Normally, every year, we launch ERM assessment cycle in the February or March. This year, we launched very late in 28 July. So cycle has two stages. The first stage is called risk assessment stage, and second stage is called risk response stage. During risk assessment stage, country office undertake a self-assessment. Then they submit the assessment for validation by the regional office, and then regional office validate the assessment. So that is the process of risk assessment, which is done every year. Up to last year, it was being done for every country office, irrespective of the size of program or anything. But this year, we changed our approach a little bit, and we are doing mandatory only for 30 country office, and I will come to that little later in my presentation. So I talked about risk assessment phase, and the next phase is called risk response phase. Once risk assessment phase is complete, means regional office has validated the assessment, then the risk response phase starts. During risk response phase, all the risk for which your country office has assessed themselves as high or critical in the strategic risk area or high in the residual risk area, they have to make a plan as to how they will mitigate that risk. That is the risk response stage. So risk response stage will start later. It is not yet started. We are still in the risk assessment stage. And we will talk about risk response later when we start. So I will not do any focus on the risk response stage today, only risk assessment, just to give you a bit of flavor on how to do the assessment. We already agreed, okay. Then this year, there are 3 new additional risk factor which we have added in our ERM cycle. The first new risk factor which we have added is the occupational safety and health. This is a risk due to insufficient management of occupational safety and health in the area of physical trauma, infectious disease, environmental factor, and psychosocial risk hazards. This is a risk factor which has been given to us by high-level committee on management. There is a HLCM which deals with the management issue across all agencies. So they have given a guidance that when we do risk assessment of countries, we should also assess risk on this factor. So they have also given us a document which I have uploaded in the learning folder of the ERM, which I will show them when we come to demonstration. And you can read that document. It's very long document in terms of a lot of things are written there, but we have tried to put the whole document into one risk factor with different causes. Second risk factor which we have added this year is called risk of doing unintended harm to people and the environment by UNFPA supported program. This is also a new risk area and it is driven by the SG office in UN. Because donors are requesting that any agency, if they are doing any program in any country, they must do some sort of risk assessment that any of the program which they are doing is not causing any unintended harm to the people where the program is being done or the environment. UNFPA is coming out with a new policy on this front, and the policy is still not out. It is still being written. And as per the policy, it is a requirement to do the risk assessment by each country in this area. So that's why even before the policy is out, we added this risk in our annual ERM cycle. What we have done, the PSD, Policy and Strategy Division in headquarters, is managing this policy. So I requested them to make a one-page note, which they have done, and we have uploaded in the learning folder. You can read that later. Third new risk which we have added is called risk of program delivery.
Bienvenida, Andrea. Lo que quisiéramos preguntarte, Andrea Nicole.
Thank you. The third is the risk of program delivery due to ongoing COVID-19. This is not a rocket science. We are all going through this stage of risk program delivery. There'll be some changes because of COVID-19, as Rinko also mentioned in her opening statement. So we also want to make sure that we add this risk in our current assessment, that any risk which a country may be facing, country office may be facing in delivery of the program, due to COVID-19 can also be assessed. So with these three new risk factors, and we also updated list of causes for the existing risk factor. I'll come to that a little later. Now, as I mentioned before, this year we are doing something called a differentiated ERM assessment. Before I go further, Tatiana, is that okay? You want to do some translation, or are we good?
Raj, I think we are good. Anyway, I have sent all materials that were in the learning folder to the colleagues 1 week ago, so they could get familiarized with the session. And I think we're doing fine. Gustavo, I don't know if there are any questions in the chat. I think not.
Okay, so is speed okay? Are you okay with the speed in terms of?
Yes, I think it's okay. I don't know how the other colleagues are with the speed.
Am I slow enough? Am I slow enough?
Excelente. Los colegas.
Okay, thank you.
¿Estamos bien?
Muy bien, está muy claro. Gracias.
Gracias, Siria.
Gracias.
Adelante, Raj. You can go ahead.
Thank you. So, as Rinko also mentioned in her opening statement that we means Bolivia country office is not in the list of 30 country offices. So I thought I'll give you a bit of brief introduction of 30 country office. Now this year, as I mentioned before, we are doing differentiated ERM assessment. What do we mean by differentiation? Differentiation means it is not mandatory for every country office to do assessment. We selected 30 country offices who has to do assessment, and I'll come to that little later. But this does not mean that other country office cannot do assessment. They can also do it. System is not stopping anybody. So we have written in our announcement, which was done on 28th July 2020 from the DMS, that other non-mandated business units can also do assessment if they think there's a change in the risk profile in consultation with the regional office. And that I have seen you have already done with regional office, and I think Carlos was in the loop. Carlos is the regional IUM, and he kind of agreed to this assessment. Now, this is the list of 30 country offices who are there. So since your name is not there, so you don't have to read it, but I want to come to the criteria which we used to come to this 30 country office. And I also want to talk about why we picked up only 30. Okay, there was a criticism by the audit team and by other donors and also the other agency who go to see our work sometime, that the risk assessment which is done by the country offices are not very realistic. Realistic means when the risk assessment is done by the country office, they are not exactly what the risk is there. So sometimes there is a lot of subjectivity. Subjectivity means the country office either are not fully familiar how to do assessment, or country office invariably, most of the time, does assessment at low level, means they don't assess a risk high when it is actually high. So there is a need to do some sort of facilitation. So facilitation means we want to go through each country office assessment and then give them idea or help where they have not done properly or where they can change it. That's why all 29 country office which we have finished assessment, we requested them to do the assessment beforehand, our session. So they did assessment and then they showed us the assessment, and then we go one by one and help them giving ideas where they can make some changes. But with you, it is not that way because you have still not done assessment, which is fine. Because with you, it is slightly different approach. I will probably give you some ideas that when you do assessment, then what things to consider when you do your risk assessment. What is that which we are looking for? So I will go into some key risk area and talk about it. So for that, Tatiana, I may request somebody from the country office to open my risk application later when I finish my initial slide, and then we can go through the my risk application. Can you do this? Do you have computer in front of you?
Yes, we have computer. What application do you want us to open?
My risk, not right now, later. When I stop sharing, then you can start sharing my risk application. Why I'm saying you to open, because you are the focal point for your country. I cannot do that.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, sure. You will let me know and I will open it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you can share your screen. So that's, then we go live on the different areas and then we'll try to talk about them. Okay.
Okay, great.
Excellent. So these 30 business units we selected because we wanted to do one-to-one facilitation with these 30 country office. So same way like you are together. So like today morning, Iraq, the office was together. Not everybody in the office, but key person who were involved with the ERM process, they were there. And then we go through one by one area and we gave them feedback, and then they will make some changes. So this is a very exhaustive process. Like if and those assessment and those facilitation last for 3 to 3.5 hours, because we actually go one by one. We read what they have written, then we give our idea, then there are some comment, they will say no, they will say yes. It's like a very very interactive and exhaustive process. And to do that 3 hour session, I have to prepare for 4 to 5 hours beforehand, because I have to literally look the whole country office performance before I go to them and talk to them. So it's very exhaustive process in that sense, the whole facilitation. And we could not do more than 30 in 1 month. It is, as it is, very high number, because we are doing almost one session per day. And in some days we did even 3 sessions. Like once I did with Pakistan in the night, morning with Haiti, and then one with more countries. So that also happened. But now we are almost at the end. I only have one left, which is Somalia, which is on Monday. Rest we have done. That's why I gave time to Tatiana to do today, because today I already had finished one session. Now, these are the different indicators that we used to select the countries. So what we used, what is called a Pareto principle, means we wanted to cover as much money as we can, but at the same time, only high risky country. So we have this indicator, which was primarily how much money was used by that country in 19, what was the plan for 20. FTP call for fast track procedures. So if the FTP were activated in any country in 19, we picked up that was one indicator. If the country received SURF funding, another indicator. If the country has any HR issue, like there are many places where countries rep post is vacant for 6 months, or IUMs or OMs are vacant for few months, then that country become risky because the oversight gets lower. Then there is the inform index, which is the EU index. Then which quadrant country lies, what is the programmatic criticality rating, number of implementing partner that were qualified. I will send this, I think I already have this presentation in the learning folder, but I can put it again if it's not there. Then if the country received any humanitarian support, what is the corruption index of the country from the Transparency International? Were there any issue identified by the internal audit in that country? Was this country appearing as a top humanitarian requirement in 2020? Or what money they received from 2019? So I'm just giving you some idea what was the basis on which we selected these 30 countries. So what we did, with each of the indicator, we assigned some weight to each indicator then did some multiplication, then did some sorting in Excel sheet, and then we picked up top 30 countries. So that was the idea how we select. So you were not one of them, because I think the lowest and budget was one of the major indicator. So I think the lowest budget which we picked up was $10 million. And I'm seeing that your annual budget this year is about 5.2 million, right, Tatiana? Is in that range, right? Total budget. So that's why your country was probably not in that list. Okay. So this is all I wanted to explain in terms of the 2020 cycle. And now I will stop sharing. And Tatiana, if you can open my risk application and share, then we can go into some critical risk area and talk about how to do this system. I'm sharing, unless any comments are welcome at this stage before we go to the next phase.
Colega, si usted tiene preguntas, si podría escribir en la chat box o puede levantar su mano para hablar, por favor. I don't see any questions.
No, you have to go to, Tatiana, you have to go to SIS, the Strategic Information System.
Yes,
Can you see my?
I can
yes,
see.
I can see.
Okay.
We can see your screen, but you have to go to SIS. Yeah.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Laji, I'm waiting for colleagues. Maybe they have questions, but while waiting, I wanted to ask one question because starting today, I'm sorry, starting this year, the ERM is not mandatory for all the country offices, only the 30 high-risk business units, no? That
yes.
you selected based on the criteria. What would be the implication on the audit exercise? Because when the audit comes, they always look at the ERM, no? That is a mandatory area for auditors. But most of the countries are not mandatory, so I would assume they will not do this exercise, at least for this year. So, you know, what happens when auditor comes, for example, next year for these countries?
Okay. Good question. Excellent. Good question. Question is pregunta, right? In Spanish, pregunta?
Yes,
okay.
That's correct.
Pregunta, sí.
Okay. Okay, good question. First of all, just to give you a side information that our audit team here in headquarters is also doing an audit of the ERM process as a whole. Means they are doing audit of the whole process, which means they want to see how ERM is done in the UNFPA globally. So they are looking at what we did in 18, 19, and it so happened that they started process from July, and July we launched 2020 cycle. So you will be surprised to hear that this session, which I was talking about with country offices, they attended 5 sessions or six sessions. They attended 6 sessions, which we facilitated. So they exactly know which 30 country office we have picked up. They have even sit in those sessions to ask, to observe what kind of facilitation we are doing and what kind of question country office is asking. So in that front, I don't see any problem because they exactly know which countries are there and they will not pick up that. That's one part. Second part, since I'm also the audit monitoring specialist of UNFPA, and whenever any audit happens in any place in UNFPA by the internal audit, it is my responsibility to help and support that country office during the audit and after the audit. When the audit report is issued, I manage the implementation of audit recommendation. I'm the implementation coordinator. We have a software called Team Central. In that we manage that. So on that front, they and I know the basis on which audit team select the countries where to go is also risk based. So the point I'm trying to make, they also have a list which they don't share with us. They have a list of 3 type of category of countries. One category is called high risk country, medium risk country, and low risk country. And as per the plan of audit, they go to high risk country every 3 years, medium 10 years, and low risk they don't even go. Okay. So what happened in low risk country? They do something which is called remote audit, RAM. So I think LACRO was done twice last year. I remember I was in touch with Hisham when he was the IU. I'm there. Because in the RAM process, they sit from the headquarters and they look at the transaction of each country in that region. And RAM is done at the level of region, not at the level of country. So with the low risk country, they only do the remote monitoring kind of thing. So I thought I'll give you a bigger, longer answer of this small question to give you the overall context. Okay.
Thank you so much, Raj. I'm just looking at the screen.
Now,
I don't
Tatiana,
see any questions.
Yeah, okay,
Should
sure.
we go to the risk assessment?
Yes, please. Okay, excellent. So now, and this is the learning folder link which is on the top, no? But
Sorry?
we don't have to go there, right? Okay, if you see the annual enterprise risk assessment, there are 2 areas here. One is called strategic risk assessment, which is in the top, and one is called fraud risk assessment, which is at the bottom. So we will cover both in slightly different way. In the strategic risk assessment, there are 11 risk area. One is called donor relationship management, vacancy succession planning, misalignment, and I am not going to read all of them, but planning and budgeting is the last. Under each risk area, there are multiple risk factors. So if you open donor relationship management, Tatiana, thank you. You are doing excellent job, Tatiana. Excellent. You are just following my, what I'm going to say, you're following that. Excellent. So first of all, in the governance structure, Rinko, since you are new to UNFP, are you new to UNFP? Have you recently joined? Like UNFP?
Yeah, I just joined in end of July. Yes.
Okay, fine. So good.
New.
So I'm also bringing something which you may not be familiar because, so I'm trying to put the things in perspective, which we don't do with normal facilitation because there it's different audience. Thank you. So these 11 strategic risk area, in the governance model, we have one risk area owner, which is called global risk area owner at headquarters. Okay. So for donor relationship management area, the director DCS, who is the owner, because this deals with the donor mobilization. The second one, which is called vacancies and succession planning, the owner is the director DHR here, because this relates to the recruitment and blah, blah, blah. Third one is misalignment of staff unit objective. It's also director DHR because this talks about alignment and all this. So similarly, for every area, there are one risk owner, global risk owner, who sits in headquarters, who is part of the executive committee. And when we do the analysis at the end of the year, we bring to their attention all the high risk where any country is facing. So in that sense, during assessment stage, it is an opportunity for country office to escalate if the country. So during the assessment stage, I'm been told to speak slowly, less. If you can't hear, then let me know. So during the risk assessment stage, it is an opportunity for you to escalate the risk if you think that you need to bring this risk to the attention of somebody else. And somebody else is number one, your regional office, because regional office does the validation. And then if some risks are high, I do the analysis and I bring to the attention of the relevant risk owner. Okay. I thought this is just additional information which I gave you. Now let's come to the first risk area, Tatiana, which is the donor relationship management. In the donor relationship management, there are 2 risk factors. One is called risk of not being able to meet established funding targets. And second is risk of not being able to attract new or non-traditional donor, including private sector. Now, the way our risk system is set up, with each risk factor, there are some causes which you can choose. So causes means the trigger. Yeah, and there are 30 people online. Whole Bolivia country. I'll try to speak slowly. So the other option is, there are causes, and the causes will give you a trigger. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can rush.
So because in the next room, the executive director is sitting and they're complaining I'm speaking loudly. So I'm trying to bring my volume low. Okay. So these causes gives you trigger in terms of what could be reason of this risk to happen. And these causes are very self-explanatory. You can make out. The reason we put these causes, because this will give you a trigger in your mind. Oh, because of this reason, this risk can happen. Let me give you one small example. There's one cause is called adverse audit opinion. Now, if your country office has received adverse audit opinion, or UNFPA as a whole, if they have received an adverse audit opinion, then donor will think twice before giving money to us, right? Because they will not trust our system. They may say, UNFPM, we give money and you don't know money will be used where, right? In that sense. So that's why these are different causes we have given. So when you do, you can press the cancel, Tatiana. So when we choose the risk factor, then we choose the cause, which is causing the risk factor to happen. After that, there's a justification column. Can you pull it down, Tatiana? Yeah. And there is a impact rating and probability rating. These are very important things. Pick up, choose anything. Pick up, let's say 1. Probability, pick up 1.
Excuse me?
Probability 1. Pick up 1 or 2, yeah. And impact also 1 or 2. Okay. Now what happens in the system, we don't assess the risk as a risk. What we assess is what is the probability of happening it and what will be the impact when it will happen. Now, I'm coming back to the same risk of not being able to meet established funding target. So here, how do we calculate that? We tell, first of all, to the country office, do you have a resource mobilization plan? Yes, we have. If you have a resource mobilization plan, do you have a revenue target which are set for this year? I mean, the year for which you're doing assessment. You say, I have, sir, right? Suppose, let me give example. Suppose your revenue targets are $2 million in a year, and you have already achieved $1.5 million by now, and you already have some proposal in pipeline to get the money from your donor. So the possibility, but in 1.5 million you already have, 0.2 million, let's say, is the pipeline. So maybe 0.3 million is money which you may not able to mobilize. So the probability of not meeting the funding target is 0.2 or 0.3 million out of the 3 million, right? Or 2 million. So it's low. On that basis, you can say my probability is low. This is the probability part. Now let's come to the impact part. Now, if your target was 3 million for mobilization, but you already have your own regular program, let's say 3 million. So 3 plus 3, 6 million. So the total country program performance depends on the 6 million. Out of 6 million, it's only 0.2 or 0.3 million which you may not able to mobilize. So impact of 0.3 million or 0.2 million over a 6 million is low. So you can choose my impact is low, my probability is low. Now let's switch the position. When I switch, let's say my whole country program is only 1 million. The whole country program is 4 million. Out of 4 million, 3 million I'm supposed to mobilize. If I have to mobilize 3 million, I have only mobilized so far 1 million and maybe 0.5 more I can mobilize. So it means 1.5 million will not get mobilized. So out of 3, if 1.5 may not get mobilized, then my probability goes high, almost half, means either 3 or 4. And out of 4 million, which is my total program, if I can't get 1.5 million, it means almost 40% of my results I may not be able to achieve because I may not even have the money. So my impact will also go high. So with that, you will see if you change your probability and change impact, automatically the assessment gets changed of the rating because it depends upon the factor of the probability and impact. And that's how the system automatically assign what is my risk. Is that part clear so far? Are we good?
Raj?
Yes.
I think, yes, it's clear, but two questions. One is, do you have this matrix, the table,
Yes,
that shows the impact and the probability and, how that the rating will calculate based on impact times probability? And the second question is, this rating is low risk or residual risk? At this point, we are not talking about the residual, right?
Okay. Very good. I'm very happy with this question. Number one, on the matrix, in the learning folder, if you see, there are a lot of guidance notes because this is not something which we started this year. This is going on for 2-3 years since you have newcome, so you may have to. There is a guidance note, and there are webinars and there are videos in the learning folder. So you may have to spend some time to go through the guidance note. So in the guidance note, we have this matrix there, and we have defined the multiplication, how they calculate. Number one, that's the answer to the first question. On the second question, remember I told you there are two different areas, strategic risk assessment and fraud risk assessment. So in the strategic risk assessment, we don't do residual. We call it current risk. So there is no inherent, no residual. It's current risk, which is based on the, as of now, what is the probability of impact happening. But when we move to the fraud risk area, that is when we will talk about, can you open any of them? Yeah, open. Then we talk of inherent risk, effectiveness, and residual risk. So that's why I said these two are done in different fashion, and why I'll come to that when I talk about fraud. Why are we doing it in different way, and even the ratings of the risk in the case of strategic assessments are 5. Because can you go back to Tatiana? Yeah, here. See, if you choose 0 probability and 0 impact, it will call not applicable risk because there's nothing there. So depending upon different rate, and it keeps changing. So there are 5 rating in the strategic assessment, which is called not applicable, means this risk is not even applicable to you. It is possible, it may not be applicable. Then low risk, then medium risk, then high risk, and then critical risk. There are 5 rating in the strategic area, whereas in the fraud area, there are only 2, either low or high, nothing in between. Why? Because we have 0 tolerance toward fraud. So we cannot live with anything above low. It has to be brought to low, whatever risk we have. So good question. So in that sense, I thought I'll spend more time on one risk factor so that I gave you the concept. Now, similarly, if you go to the second part, which is the risk of not being able to attract new or non-traditional donor, again here, you have to see in your plan of things, did you have any plan to mobilize money from the non-traditional or new donor or the private sector? If you had a plan, then same formula, how much achieved, how much in pipeline, how much you can achieve. If in many countries, the private sector is not even matured, I mean, there's nobody giving money from private sector to UNFPA there. So in that case, they may not have a plan. So if there's no plan, then there's no risk, because the risk is in the sense that in my bigger scheme of things, in my annual program, when I want to achieve, when I want to do my country program results, that money which I will not get, how this will affect my results. If I was not even planning to get any money, it will not affect me. So the point I'm trying to make is always target based. That's why it says targets there. So that is the donor part. Is that donor part kind of clear, or should I spend some more time on this? Okay.
I have a question regarding the risk matrix. We normally apply this matrix. I will share it again with the colleagues. But do we have to get a separate, keep a separate document where we can support our decisions on the impact and the probability? Because
Yes.
I have not seen where we can upload this document at this stage.
Okay, good question. There is a separate document which is in the learning folder, which is called template. In the template, can you, I think maybe you can open it. Can you go to learning folder? I will show you.
If you can, you have to give me some seconds, hold on.
No, no, learning folder is same place where you have.
Where, and this is, can I see, is here the learning folder?
Yeah, click here. No, just, no help. After assessment year 20, there's something called click here. That click here is written. No, left side.
Left?
No, ERM related training material. That word is written, no?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah. This is the link. I think it should be clickable.
Yes, I'm trying. It's funny. What click there? Oh.
Yeah. Okay. It's coming. Okay. If you go
where
to
do I have to
2020 assessment cycle. Yeah.
templates?
Yes. Upper one, 2020 ERM assessment. Yeah. Click here. Okay. So in this template, exactly the question you asked, the factor considered in determining impact, factor considered in determining probability. So this template you can fill separately, and this is the document which you have to upload while submitting the assessment, not before that.
Oh, yes, I remember now.
Okay. And similarly, if you go down in this document, can you go to fraud area? Because let me cover that also at the same time. Yeah, in the fraud, the factor considered in determining inherent risk, effectiveness, and this thing. Okay, we'll go that later. But this is the template which you have to fill. Does it answer your question?
Yes, sure. Yes, I
Okay,
remember.
then we go back.
Yes, we
Okay,
filled
we
it
go
out.
back to the risk here. Okay. Any questions so far? So what I will do, because we have approximately, no, I'll do one or two more risk area just to give you a bit of more idea, and then I'll move to fraud area and think, because every area covering will take 4 or 5 hours. Okay, so Now let me give you another example of the second area, which is called vacancy and succession planning. In the vacancy and succession planning, there are three risk factors. One is risk of long outstanding vacancies in the international post, risk of long outstanding vacancy in the national post, and third is risk of losing personnel in the key position. Now here also, and there are causes, no need to go to causes, it's very self-explanatory. The point I'm trying to make that we also want to bring some quantification, because the criticism which we are getting from the audit, that when we do assessment, there is no linkages between the probability, impact, and the justification. So this year we want to bring some quantification, some numbers. So in this case, let's see first case, when we say risk of long outstanding vacancy, so you have to see and key position. Remember, key position. So if there are no vacancies international in your country office in 2020, then this risk is not there, because we are talking of only those international vacancy if you have in your country. This risk is more relevant to those countries where in some country we have more than 10 international staff because of the situation they operate. And then we're talking of key position. And there are two types of key position. One is key position from the management perspective, means the leadership. So from leadership, key position international are rep, deputy rep, and IUMs, because IUMs are international. Similarly, from the key position from the non-leadership or non-management side are the humanitarian coordinator or the chief of program, like different people are there in different countries. They will decide which are my key positions. So if key positions are vacant for a long time, it is a risk. And this is one risk which you don't control. It is not your responsibility to hire international staff. It is hired by either regional office or by the headquarters. So that way, so here what we want to capture, that is there any issue in country office that positions are vacant for months together and there's nobody to manage the office, right? So here we want to put number. So if there are key position vacant, so somebody will have to write, I have 5 position vacant and one is vacant for 9 months, one vacant for 3 months, one vacant for 6 months. It means the probability of that risk is high. But if no position is vacant or only one position vacant for 1 month or 2 months, then probability is low. So that's what I want to bring, that we want to give number with the probability and the impact. Similarly, the second one is a risk of long outstanding vacancy in the national post. Same criteria. In the national post, there are some key positions like assistant reps, program heads, maybe operational manager if there's no IUM. So if those positions are not vacant, all are filled. Like I just saw your list. I think you have mostly positions filled. So you may not have this risk at all. I don't know. Similarly, so we have to give number. Put the number. No position is vacant. All are filled. So risk is 0 or 1. Low risk. That way. Third one, risk of losing personnel in key position. So here again, this means one difference. It's not that in some country what we face, people come, work for a few months, and then they resign and leave. Then new person hired, they leave. So there is a issue in the country that people come and go, come and go. It's not that they don't come. They come, join, and then leave in 1 year. The point is, there are no long-serving staff in the country. They're all like new staff. Always there are new staff because people come and go. So we want to capture that risk in this area. So again, if you have this risk, you have to mention that in my country, this position is advertised every 2 years or every 3 years. Every 2 years is also keep on people, there's a large turnover of staff. Okay. Then I go to one more risk area before I move to fraud. And can you go to risk of non-delivery of program results, Tatiana? Fourth one, yeah. This is a very, very broad risk area, and I'm to spend 3-4 minutes on this to make you understand. Now here, non-delivery of program results can happen because of 4 reasons. 3 were there before, and 4th one we have added this year regarding COVID-19. So three reasons are risk of, there could be a country office constraint because of which program results are not delivered. Could be operational constraint, could be risk of delivering results in emergency or humanitarian situation. If you choose causes, you will see a lot of causes there. See here, lot of causes because of which this risk can happen. Some may be duplicated, but there are some causes there. So these causes will help you in deciding, oh, this could be a reason for my country to non-delivery of program results. This is fine. But the point I'm trying to make here, if you go to my results, Tatiana, can you go to my results from here? I think you can. Yeah, can you go to my dashboard? No, go to dashboard. Yeah. Yeah, go down, a little bit down. See here, this is our dashboard. I'm sure you have seen this dashboard, right? Now, in this dashboard has a very direct link with that risk, because this dashboard talks about your actual unit output indicator achieved. This is the results achieved. And it also talks about your budget utilization rate, everything. So it means if these indicators are not good, it means there's a risk that you may not able to achieve your country program output. So this has a link. So if you say that in my country the risk is low of achieving results, then you have to show that as per my planning or as per my dashboard, my output achievement is 89% was in 2019, and in 2020 in two quarters, quarter one and quarter two is 86%, which is a good number, which is our range is 85 to 100, right? And also it is close to the region, which is 90%. So it means if this is the situation, then risk is actually low. But having said that, I want to bring one more angle to this. The angle to this is that when we say of results, we also have to see how my implementing partners are delivering. Okay, because I saw your data just for quickly for a few seconds, and I think your total budget is 5.5 million or 5.2 million in total budget which you have, and out of which I saw that 4 million is UNFP implementation. Correct me, Tatiana, if I'm not fully clear. I think it's 4 million is UNFP implementation, and roughly 1.1 million is of all the other implementing partners. So in that sense, the share of implementing partners is 1:4. Out of 5 million, only 1/4 of the program is implemented by partner, and 3/4 is implemented by UNFPA. So your reliance on the implementing partner is not very high. So in that sense, implementing partner management play a role, but not a major role. But in many country offices, you'll be surprised to see, like for Bangladesh, the total budget is $48 million. Out of $48 million, I think $14 or $15 million is the country office budget, and then $34-35 million is done by implementing partner. So in that sense, the country program results which you want to achieve depends largely on the implementing partner management. So in that scenario, the way implementing partners are working and kind of delivering their monitoring, assurance, hack, spot check, that also plays a major role in the country program results. Am I good, Tatiana? Are we good so far?
Yes, thank you, Rush. I like the analysis.
Okay. Okay, now we go back to the my risk. I just wanted to bring the linking of my results with that particular risk of non-delivery of program results. Okay, so now I will skip other strategic area because they are self-explanatory. I don't think we have enough time, and I don't want to bore people so much with non-glamorous discussion on risk management. So let's go to the fraud area, if you allow me. Is that okay, Tiana?
Yes, sure, Rush. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yeah, okay. Let me stop here. Yeah. Any question in French or Spanish? Any chat? Nothing.
Okay. I think you can move forward.
Any question from Rinko? I think Rinko has disabled the video, so I can't see her expression. Okay, so shall I move on?
Sorry, Raj. Yes, I have a question. I'm Rolando.
Hi, Rolando.
Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. What it's really not clear for me is what we are supposed to write down in the justification section. If it's an explanation of what are the causes, or is it something more related to the context? Would you please clarify?
Excellent. This is excellent question. Okay. First of all, yeah, I'll come to justification part. See, first of all, there are two elements in justification which you have to write. Number one, if you think that in your country office, this risk is high, then you have to first choose the causes because of which you think this risk is first of all there, those causes. So when you choose causes, the causes have predefined names there. You pick up 1 or 2 or 3 causes, whatever you think is there. Then causes get selected automatically. Can you, Tatiana, show any selection of causes? Tatiana, can you show any one causes? Yeah, maybe anyone. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, 2. And then say save. Yeah. See, the causes get selected here, right? 2 odd words. Then you have to write in the justification how those causes are causing that risk to happen. Bit of 1 or 2 or 3 lines, not like pages, 3-4 lines. Bit of to put in context, because the causes are very generic, to put in your context, in the Bolivia context. That's first part. Secondly, as I mentioned in the beginning, that try to bring some number or try to bring some quantification. So these causes written, then you can write my revenue target was this much is already achieved, this much is in pipeline, this I may not achieve. So that will define kind of your probability, why you think that my probability is low and why you think my impact is high. Now, this is one case where you think that you have chosen some causes, but there are some time when you don't have that risk in your country, or this risk is not possible. Like same question, if you have already achieved your funding target, then there is no cause you have to select. You can choose any other. There's an option of any other in every risk factor. Then you just write that my targets were this much, I've already achieved this much, so there's no risk of anything. Therefore, I've selected probability of 1 and impact of 1. So technically, 2 things are going there. One, if you choose causes, they're a bit of context. Second, some numbers. Third, the justification with related to number in the or justification of the probability and the impact. I'm not sure if I'll explain fully, but that's why this is very much open-ended area to write, because you can bring different elements there. Does it make sense, Rolando?
Yes, thank you, Raj.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Raj?
Yes.
Raj, thank you for all the explanation. It was very clarifying. I have one question. The list of applicable causes can be modified. Is there any chance to add a new applicable cause or not?
No, very interesting. Okay. See, if you see, we have tried to put as many causes as we can think of in this area. You cannot add any new cause, but you can send me an email and I can add any cause for you. But only thing is, any cause we add, that cause become global. It will start appearing to everybody. Okay. So that's why we do not want to keep that control with the country office, because then there'll be so many causes which will be difficult to manage. But when you write to me, or if you think some cause is really important, you know, to add it, you can send to us, and then I can look from their perspective that maybe this cause is relevant here or not relevant, or this is similar to some cause which is already listed there. And lastly, you can always pick up any other from the category and write bit of in the justification, because it's open-ended. Justification is open-ended text field. You can write a new cause there that in our opinion, we picked up any other because our cause is this much. You can write the cause in justification either at the beginning or at the end. I mean, it's a,
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for, you guys speak very good English. I'm feeling now depressed that I can't speak Spanish.
Thank you.
No worries, Raj, you can learn. Raj, I have a question. If you go back to the, you can go back to the non-delivery of country office results, I think.
Okay, fourth
Tatiana?
number. Tatiana,
Yeah.
fourth number.
Where there was a new area related to COVID.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Sorry.
Strategic risk assessment.
Yeah.
Risk of non-delivery of program results.
And then the last one.
Here, the first one is country offices constraints leading to risk of non-delivery, right? And then the second one is operational constraints.
Yes.
And
No,
then
you
the
can
third
cancel
one
it.
is
Tatiana, cancel it. Yeah.
third one is related to humanitarian and emergency
Yes.
context. And then the last one is COVID. To
Yes.
me, like all of these four are interrelated.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it may be difficult to, evaluate each of them. For example, the first one could include also operational constraints. The second one, operational constraints, could include COVID-related risks. So how do you manage?
Yes, you're right. I think this is very, very good observation. We are doing some, going forward, we want to make some adjustment in the risk factor because these risk factors are sometimes overlapping, as you rightly mentioned. And in fact, one of the comment or one of my observation during 29 country assessment and reading everything what they wrote, many times people used to repeat COVID thing up and down, repeating this. So I have to tell them, no, COVID thing put in the COVID area only. Otherwise, they put the actual constraint. But if I allow you to, if you allow me to say that if you go to choose causes, they are also sometimes overlapping because it's partly because of us, but choose causes give you some idea that what kind of thing you can put there. Okay, before I go further, humanitarian is very clear. Humanitarian is always clear. The only thing is between operational constraint and the country office constraint, there is sometimes confusion. So we say the operational constraints, especially if you're dealing with implementing partner, then the whole issue of OFA, assurance of partner comes under operational constraint. See, there are many things, even OFA, security, country fragility, high capacity nation staff, there are many factors. I know this also need to do a bit of cleaning because sometimes people send requests, we add this, then we realize that there are overlapping. Like 11 number, delay in distribution of fund due to poor planning in bottleneck in signing work plan. I mean, these are operational constraints. Sometimes the IP does not sign work plan for a long time. There's a lot of negotiation going on between, there are audit observation we get that work plans are signed sometime in July, in August, like that. So these are valid reasons there, which can be. So I think if you look at the causes, that might help you in putting at right places. I think, but I agree there are overlaps. Could be overlaps.
Thank you so much, Raj. Good advice. Yeah, we will also check out causes.
Yeah. And now, if with your permission, I want to go to fraud area, I think, and then, okay. Can you open any one of them, Tatiana? Okay. The way we do fraud risk assessment is entirely different the way we do the strategic risk assessment. So that's my first point, which I already tried to explain. In the fraud risk assessment, we don't do current risk assessment. We do inherent risk assessment, effectiveness, and residual risk assessment. So there is a bit of logic. In our opinion, most of the risk factor There are 11 or 12 in the fraud area in 6-7 categories. Most of the risk factors which we have chosen to assess against are inherently high risk. Okay. Inherent risk means the risk which exists in the system without the control. Please remember, without the control. It means if there were no controls, then is it risky? That is a risk, which is called inherent risk. And effectiveness is the control which you have put in place to manage that inherent high risk. And then what is left after putting those control is called the residual risk. So our concern is always the residual risk and not the inherent risk. Inherent risk is probably high, no problem. What we want to see, so in the after the risk assessment stage, when you go to the risk response stage, you will not make plan for high inherent risk, but you will make plan for only those risks which are residually high. That's why inherent can be high. Now, it's good. And then control means there are different type of control. I'm just giving a bit of idea. There are some control which are called, of course, the policy is also a control. Why we have a policy? Because we want to tell people what is allowed and what is not allowed and what is to be done. And since you are new, I'm sure you must be going through different policy reading. And if you see some of the new policies, we have a separate chapter or separate section in all new policies called risk control matrix. I don't know whether this attract your attention or not, which means even in the policy document, we link risk with a control. Like if we say this is not allowed, we say this is not allowed because if we allow this, then this risk can happen. So the point I'm trying to make, the policy is the first control, writing policy. But then at the level of country office, they have to ensure that policies are complied. So policy compliance is your control, which you want to make sure. Second control is the ERP. When I say ERP, in the Atlas system, I don't know whether you got the training on Atlas or something, you must be in the process of getting training. In the Atlas, we have something called segregation of duty, which means few functions cannot be done by the same person. They are different person who do the job. That's the control. The person who approves the voucher cannot approve the PO. The person who creates requisition cannot buy. I mean, those kind of controls are there. So this is also ERP control. Similarly, in the ERP Atlas, system will not allow you to enter few things or select few things if something is not matching. Those are called validation control. It validates things. So something similar validation we have also built in this MyRisk. That is, if my inherent risk is high and my effectiveness is low, system will not allow you to select residual risk as low, because they will say if your inherent risk is high and controls are not there, how can residual? This is like validation control, which is also in this MyRisk application. Okay, that was the concept. Now, justification, because question will come, what will go in justification? Okay, if you select inherent risk as high and you choose the cause because of which risk is happening, then we don't need another justification for the high inherent risk, because cause itself means risk is high because of this cause. If you want to put something, you're welcome, but not necessarily. What we need to see in justification is that effectiveness. If you say, I have controls in place in the office, then we need to see in the justification box, what are those controls? And here, we don't want to see all the relevant controls are being effectively monitored. This means nothing, because that means it's very general or generic request. What we want to see, controls that are relevant to that risk which is there. Let's say the first example is the issue of risk of fraudulent or unauthorized financial transaction involving implementing partner. So it means we are talking about the risk of fraudulent or unauthorized transaction related to implementing partner. So you have to list all the control that are relevant to the implementing partner assurance. I'll start from the top. Macro assessment of the country, micro assessment of the partner, micro assessment, finding, recommendation, follow-up, audit, spot checks, program monitoring. These are all controls which you have in place only for the implementing partner, right? So we want to see those bullets in the justification towards the effectiveness of that control of that risk. And then if the controls are effective, then you can select my residual risk is low. Any question in this part on the effectiveness, inherent risk, and the residual risk? Any questions? Tatiana, anybody else in the team?
Raj, I have a question.
Please.
Inherent risk, when before putting high or low, we need to use the matrix to think about impact and possibility, probability, right?
No, there's no
not?
impact probability here, because impact and probability doesn't exist in fraud risk area. It is just the inherent risk. It's just the inherent risk and the effectiveness. Impact probability is only in the strategic risk area. Here there's no impact. And then, as I remember, I told you before that in the strategic risk, we have 5 different categories of risk. We have medium, low. In this, only high and low, nothing else. And similarly, controls are either effective or ineffective, nothing in between. Because we have a zero tolerance to fraud. So we don't want to live with multiple categories of fraud risk. We have to bring them to low, low, low. We can't bring zero because nobody can promise zero risk, but we should keep low risk.
Yeah,
Tatiana, any question? Because this also relates to your area, Tatiana, because this is fraud is probably your focal point.
Yes, no, for me it's clear. I just have a question related the last one, which is wrongdoings and other proscribed practices. For us, it has been a challenge in the office, especially to address risks related to how do you say it, to sexual abuse, especially when it comes to implementing partners. So I wanted to have some ideas from you how to do the analysis and how to mitigate those risks.
Okay, excellent question. So let's take this one first. So from the IP, let's go to the last one. Okay, this is the wrongdoing. In the wrongdoing area, there are 4 risk factors. Okay. One is the unreported wrongdoing or underreported wrongdoing. Second is the risk of occurrence of sexual exploitation and abuse by UN personnel, then by IP, and fourth is a new area which I talked about, the unintended harm. So fourth I will not talk about, it's also in the learning folder. Now, in these 3 areas, top 3 areas are related, most of them, but first one is slightly different. So first one means we want to see that this risk is, if this risk is high, and invariably this risk is inherently high because people normally don't report everything what they see, because people have this, I mean, they are not sure if they report, there could be retaliation. So that's why, first of all, as a control for the first risk, what we need to see in justification, number 1, the fraud courses are done by the staff. Ethic course is done by staff. Staff is aware about a policy which is called protection from retaliation. I'm sure you must have seen this policy, which means if somebody reports any wrongdoing, what UNFPA policy, what protection UNFPA policy give to the person who has reported a wrongdoing. So these policies, awareness is the main control we have. And of course, 100% completion of the courses. Why I'm saying courses? Because if people have not done fraud course, they don't even know where to report. They may not know that there's a fraud hotline, there's this, that. So all this reporting mechanism, how to report, is in the course, which is people have to do. That's this part. On that basis, if you have done all the good things which I just talked about, then you can say my effectiveness is good and you can say my residual risk is low, depend upon the local context. But similarly, for the second one, if the people have done the PSCA online course, people have been trained, everything, and here I have to ask you a question: who is the PSCA focal point in the country office?
It's Rolando Pardo.
And the online?
Yes,
Okay,
Rolando.
Okay, good. So in this area, what we need to see in the PSCA area, both second and third, what are the different activity which country office has done to bring awareness of the staff in this area and also in the area of IP. There's a PSCA network, there are PSCA focal point at the level of country, at the level of region, and at the level of headquarters. We have a PSCA coordinator, Eva Bolkat, who is also in the OED. Now, in this area, if you can list all the different activity you are doing and making sure that everybody has completed PSCA online course, I'm sure the Rolando must be also monitoring that everybody has done the course or not. I think that's one of their responsibility in that sense. Then you can say my controls are good. I've done whatever I could do. And then you can say, we can say that you can say in the risk assessment that risk is low. So this part is clear. Now I'm coming to your question, which you specifically asked. So now I'm going to, sorry, I had to bring the whole context before answering your question. The third one is the risk of occurrence of sexual exploitation by implementing partner. Now here, it's very tricky. Tricky means you don't control implementing partner completely. You can give them training, you can tell them to complete the course, you can do all those things, but still you are not sure that everything what you want to do has been done. Moreover, if you know, he will, moreover, you know, recently, I think 2 or 3 weeks back or 4 weeks back, I don't know, remember exactly, we launched the PSCA IP assessment, right? And there were 2 webinars back to back, one on the policy, second on the implementation of policy. And now your country office, like other country offices, must be going through this process of PSCA IP assessment, right?
Yes.
You are, right?
Yes, yes, but it's not mandatory right now for the existing IPs.
Yes, yes, for the new IPs, yeah, but
yes, for the new IP.
But this is a process which is not yet. So the point I'm trying to make, that all the controls or all the effectiveness to make sure that this risk is low is not fully complete. This process is still going on. So therefore, in my humble opinion, it is management has to decide whether do you really feel comfortable in saying that my risk is low in this area by doing whatever you've done so far, because in my opinion, this is not even complete. The process is still on. We are still making new guidance notes, some checks being done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is one area where in many countries, we request them, consult your PSCA focal point. Let the person say that yes, there's no risk, and then give all the justification that there's no risk in this area. Because this is a hot potato kind of thing. Every donor, in every executive board meeting, a lot of attention is being paid to this particular risk, which is the PSCA. So we have to be really, really good in our analysis of listing all the good things we are doing. And then only we can say that my risk is low. If you recall, let me take 30 seconds more. If you recall, when I was talking about the logic of inherent risk, effectiveness, and the residual risk, I told if you use inherent risk as high, control as ineffective, system will not allow you to select low residual risk. But otherwise, if you choose inherent risk high, control effective, still system will allow you to choose high residual risk. because it is possible, effective. If you choose effective, still you can choose high risk, because many a times you may be doing everything what you can do, but are you sure that now my risk is gone down? Two possibilities. One, the still work in progress. Like in my opinion, the PSC IP work is still in progress. We haven't yet finished, but at some stage we will be doing the existing IP also at some stage. I don't know when. So, and also the new IPs assessment has to be done by January 21. I don't know what's the date. I didn't follow fully the date line. So this is possible that in those cases, even if the my controls are effective, my residual risk may still be high. I don't know if I fully answered your question, but that's the point I was trying to make. Okay?
Yes,
Are
thank
you
you.
good?
Yes, thank you.
So similarly, if you go up, similarly for the other areas, like let's take one more example in the fraud. Let's take the case of asset, inventory, and vehicle and travel. Now here there are three risk factors. Again, same thing. Inherent risk may be high, may not be high. If you choose my inherent risk is low, then you have to give some justification. And for you, it may be low. You know why? Because we didn't even pick up this country. Because we didn't pick up because everything is related. So if you take inherent risk as low, okay, I'm talking about the first one, the vehicle asset. So then you just write that in my, I don't know how many vehicles you have. How many vehicles do you have in the office? One or two?
Vehicles, 3.
3. Okay. There are countries with 20 vehicles, right? And they are also located in different locations, not in the main like capital. There's a big risk of vehicle management, of fuel leakage, maintenance. See, if you go to choose causes, just go to choose causes here, the first one. And see here, fake bill of vehicle repair, theft of UNFP equipment, supplies, fuel voucher. So these things are there. And I have a very broad guidance in the whole fraud area. Can you please cancel, Tatiana? Okay. I have a broad guidance. And the guidance is that when you write your control in the fraud area, look at the causes which we have listed, potential causes. Make sure you put 1 or 2 lines to cover that causes which are there. I'm not saying choose cause. I'm saying cover the cause. Cover the cause means if I'm the first one, so you should say that we have a good system of vehicle log where vehicle history card is maintained. We calculate fuel mileage. So this will automatically give you a red flag if something is wrong happening. Like in 1 month, few vehicle is giving 5 mile per liter average, and next month it comes to 3. It means something is wrong, right? Unless there is petrol tank is not filled at every quarter, every time is not fully filled. Similarly, vehicle repair, some system is there in the office to make sure that you do some analysis of vehicle repair per quarter, per 6 month, per year, that how much money was spent on this vehicle. And if something is coming like high, red flag, so you have to see what happened in this vehicle. Was the accident? Or regular repair is so high? Those kind of things. So wherever we have written causes, try to list 1 or 2 line or 1 bullet that you understand this cause and you have a system in place to mitigate or monitor any frequency of that cause. Am I clear, Tatiana? Does it make sense?
Yes, it makes sense to me. I don't know if the other colleagues have a question. ¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta? Rinko, are you okay?
Yes, I am okay. I'm just checking if there is any other questions.
Yeah, good. So I will not go through each and every risk factor because that will be a very long session. So I give you broad guidance that whenever you write a justification, make sure that the cause which we have listed is covered in the justification, that we have a control to this cause, something like that. So I think that's all I was thinking. Maybe thank you so much for staying for 1.5 hours, 40 minutes. I know it's not an interesting subject. It's pretty boring risk management subject. I try to bring some interest there, but any question, anytime, feel free to let me know, or any question now, Rinko.
Raj, is, so when we finish completing this, we will have the high risks or critical risks, and there will be another page that will automatically
No.
extract.
No. If you go back to the Tatiana, can you go back to the My Risk application beginning on the top menu at the menu? Yeah. See here, you see two different options: risk assessment and risk response. So what happens once you do assessment? Then you first submit the assessment. The whole flow is there in the guidance note. I think Tatiana can probably take some internal presentation. Once you submit, then automatically notification will go to the regional office for validation. So once they validate, then on the left hand side, if you show that cursor where draft is written with the green font, Tatiana.
Where do you want me to go, Fresh?
No, just the same right hand side. There's a draft written on the right hand side.
Oh, okay. Yes, sure.
See here you will see that right now say assessment not complete. So this sign keep changing. Once you complete, say assessment complete, and then automatically a new prompt will appear, submit for validation. When you submit, it will ask you attach that document, the template I mentioned about there. Once you submit the assessment, then you get the message pending for validation. Means now it is in the hands of regional office. Once they click the button after reviewing, then in the same place where you have draft, the message will become validated. So once it get validated, now can you go back, Tatiana, to My Risk? Yeah. And when click risk response, yeah. Then when you click risk response, right now, nothing is coming. Risk assessment is not validated. You're getting that message. But once risk assessment get validated, then automatically you will see the risk here. And then those risks which are high or critical or medium, another button will come with those risks saying planning plan. But anything which is low, no button will come. It means nothing to do. So only those risks will appear which are high or critical. But this is the second stage. I think we'll have a separate session when we launch the risk response. I mean, there's no change in the risk response. So I think the guidance note, there are videos, there are guidance notes which you can refer and have a look at. Are you good?
Thank you so much, Raj. Yes, so just for the practical purpose, if we are going to do this now, we are October 2020. So should we looking into also 2021, and then perhaps 2021 we can just quickly review, perhaps media or something to update, you know. Because if we do that only for 2020, we only have a few months left. And then another question is, when we do the assessment, should we already think about the mitigation plan, or should we wait until RACRO will approve and validate our assessment, and then we will do the mitigation planning?
Okay, good question. I think what I would propose to you, since it's not mandatory for you, do the assessment yourself fully, and then see, do you really have any risk which are high or critical? At least with so much, we have discussed quite a lot now, and you get a fair idea of coming out with a realistic risk assessment, right? If you feel that 1 or 2 fraud risks are high, or 4 or 5 strategic risks, in your opinion, are high, then it is worth doing assessment now, and then you can think of plan. But if nothing much comes high, because to me it appears there may not be any high risk except we only go for 2, then I think it's a good exercise to undertake yourself and come. If you think not many risks are coming high, only 1 or 2, then I would rather say not to do, because for 3 months are left, and then you can probably take the next year assessment. At least this will give you This is a golden opportunity for you. First of all, the whole office is online. Everybody's, I mean, I'm sure Delta X or little bit knowledge must have increased today, if not much. So that way people are become more aware. So in that sense, so do assessment definitely yourself. See how many are coming high as per your realistic assessment. If not many, then maybe do it, leave it as it is draft, don't worry. And then you can print. In fact, you can do one thing. You can also print an Excel sheet from automatically, and then you can keep a Word file for your ready reference in terms of doing it. But if you really want to go through the whole process, feel free. You can submit, blah, blah, blah. But currently it is annual only. It is not for next year. So I will, but you can also do for next year, but that will be exceptional because you may not, your number may not even come for next year. So we may not even ask you next year to do assessment. So in that sense, it will be helpful for you to continue with this assessment for next year. I mean, there are different school of thoughts. We are also first time doing part countries, not every country. So we have to still think a little bit more about how to do next year. Next year, should we go with the same countries? I don't know. We may go with different set of country next year. Like these countries have done now in October. So I may not tell them again to do in January or February. I may pick up tier 2. Remember I told you I picked up top 30? Now we may go to next 30 or next 50 and tell them to do in 21 so that we get a more bigger picture. And same exercise which I did this year with 30, I do with the next 30 next year. So that way, at the end, more officers will get more aware and to do assessment right now. So next year we may not go same country. So next year your turn may anyway come because you are on 5.2 million, which is number 2, tier 2. So next year we might select you anyway. So then you can do next year. I mean, I'm not sure I'm clearly answering you, but I'm giving you different options.
No, I think that makes sense. And, you know, we do the exercise now and probably see how many high risks will come out. If there are not many, we can keep it as it is. And then next year, I'm guessing that we will be the mandatory country.
Yeah, you probably will mandatory.
So,
I will go to tier 2 next year.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Almost
great,
1 hour 46 minutes.
Yes, I don't know if Tatiana or Rolando or any other colleagues, Celia, ¿tienen algunas preguntas?
No, no. Está muy claro, gracias.
Gracias.
No, I don't have any further questions as well. I would like to ask our colleagues to stay online so that we can program the assessment for next week. Pediría a los colegas que una vez que terminemos, que Rush se desconecte, nos podamos quedar unos minutos para organizar la evaluación que realizaríamos la próxima semana.
But Tatiana, there's one issue because I am the host, so I will keep that host on, okay?
It's only 10 minutes, please.
No, I will keep it on.
Maybe Raji, you can stay.
I will not listen, but I will just keep it on.
No, you can listen. Of course you can listen. You can give us important
practice.
Because if I disconnect, everybody get disconnected. That's why I'll just keep it on and you disconnect later. Okay?
Okay, I'm okay. Thank you, Rush.
So thank you, Rinko. Thank you so much for your interest. I'm impressed. And also impressed with your Spanish language.
Thank you so much, Raj.
Thank you, Raj.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Very much, Raj.
Bueno, Rinko, no sé si usted desea hacer algún resumen, algo, o pasamos a presentar el plan que hemos elaborado con Rolando.
Sí, creo que todos están claras que, bueno, nuestra oficina no está en la lista de 30 países mandatorias para este ejercicio, para este año. Y además, este año, a causa de pandemia, el ciclo de assessment, evaluación de riesgos, ha posponido hasta septiembre, ¿no? Septiembre, todos los países 30 países tenía que completar este ciclo de assessment y ahora creo que están en el ciclo de respuesta. Para nosotros, como no somos un país mandatorio, LACRO dice que esta fecha límite no se aplica para nuestro país, Creo que esta presentación era muy útil, ¿no? Hoy para refrescar nuestro conocimiento sobre ejercicio de ERM. Y como Lage había propuesto, dado que nuestro país es opcional para este ejercicio, estamos ya en octubre, si tenemos que hacer este ejercicio, es importante hacer este ejercicio ahorita, pero tendremos que ver cuántos riesgos nos salieron como alto o criticar, ¿no? Nivel crítico, porque estos riesgos sí normalmente tenemos que tener un plan de mitigación. Y si no hay muchos riesgos, bueno, dado que este ejercicio estamos haciendo cada año y tenemos solamente octubre hasta diciembre, nos queda 2 meses, ¿no? Prácticamente. Si no hay muchos riesgos de alto nivel, guardamos así, año próximo, Raj decía que probablemente nuestro país sería en la lista de países mandatorios, ¿no? Así que en enero vamos a actualizar y si hay riesgos de alto nivel, vamos a hacer también plan de mitigación y implementación de este plan, ¿no? Creo que todos están claros de este plan. Así que si no hay preguntas, creo que Tatiana podría presentar su plan, ¿no? Para esta fase de risk assessment.
Sí, de la evaluación de riesgos. Bueno, ya hemos cumplido con la primera parte, que ha sido la distribución y lectura de materiales. Sin embargo, en seguimiento a la conferencia de hoy, yo les voy a mandar el Risk Assessment del 2019, que yo creo que podría ser interesante que lo tengamos como base para hacer una comparación, quizás si ha habido algún cambio sustantivo. Les voy a enviar la matriz para hacer el cálculo de riesgos a la que hacía referencia Rush, el template, ¿no? Que es la matriz donde tenemos que vaciar nuestro análisis, y también les voy a enviar un listado de los grupos que se estarían conformando para realizar el ejercicio. Entonces, como les decía, ya habríamos pasado la parte de la lectura de los materiales. Hoy se ha cumplido la capacitación con apoyo de Rush, que para mí realmente, pese a que yo he estado en algunos webinars con él, me pareció que fue mucho más didáctico y más claro, ¿no? Aterrizando ya cómo uno debería realizar el análisis. Luego, la próxima semana se estaría planteando que los grupos de trabajo se reúnan para hacer los análisis, ¿no? Por cada área asignada. O sea, no vamos a pedir que cada persona vea absolutamente todas las áreas de riesgo, sino hemos hecho una distribución equilibrada para que se pueda realizar este trabajo y no sea muy pesado, ¿no? Para cada grupo. En la semana del 19 al 23 ya la idea es que el documento general de análisis pueda pasar para revisión, ¿no? de RINC o del SMT de Celia y también mía, y de esta manera ya RINCO podría finalizar hacia el 23 de octubre y pasarlo ya al ACRO para que se pueda finalizar el proceso. Y en base a lo que decía Rinco, si se identifican muchos riesgos como altos o críticos, ya tendríamos que pensar en un plan de mitigación. Caso contrario, yo creo que ahí terminaría el ejercicio este año. Ahora, esto no está avanzando, perdón, ahí. Como les decía, vamos a formar 5 grupos multidisciplinarios. Yo les voy a mandar por email quién está en qué grupo, y cada grupo va a ser liderado por una persona que va a tener que organizar el grupo, ¿no? La reunión, hacer este ejercicio reflexivo que nos daba Rush el ejemplo para algunas áreas, y también pueda completar la matriz online. No sé si sobre esto tienen alguna pregunta, o Rolito, no sé si quieres complementar algo, perdón.
No, creo que está claro, Tati.
Entonces, no sé si hay alguna duda. Caso contrario, yo les mandaría la información. ¿Perdón?
Si puedes regresar a primera diapositiva. Sí. Yo creo que tercera etapa, que es trabajo de grupos, serían 5 grupos, pero entre esta etapa y etapa de revisión y por senior management, no sé si sería necesario hacer como peer review, ¿no? De división por pares. Es decir, normalmente este ejercicio tenemos que hacer a través de un taller, ¿no? Y cuando el grupo tiene ya propuesta, este grupo, cada grupo presenta a todos, demás colegas, y otros colegas tendrán oportunidad para hacer comentarios. Este proceso, no sé si podríamos hacer, por ejemplo, por ejemplo, grupo 1 y grupo 2 comparte y hace comentarios y hace ajustes. O no sé, grupo 3 y 4. Es una opción, y otra opción sería tener una sesión con todos y 5 grupos presentan. Obviamente eso tomaría muchísimo tiempo, ¿no? Porque si cada grupo tal vez presenta 15 minutos y preguntas y comentarios, sí, para 5 veces, así que no sé si...
sí, hay que ver que se hizo más rápido.
Sí,
Celia.
sí.
Me parece fantástica la opción que plantea Rinco, porque se va a alimentar más el ejercicio y realmente se lo democratiza, y más bien, Rinco, el poder hacer una presentación una vez que ya lo tengamos validado, porque también en esa validación con seguridad se hacen ajustes, ¿no? Nos ha pasado en el pasado también.
Entonces, usted piensa que después de revisión por Senior Management Team, vamos a presentarlo a todos para comentarios finales, ¿así es?
Sí, pero primero tu primera opción que me parece fantástica, esto de que un grupo revise lo que ha hecho el otro y pueda alimentar, me parece muy bien, porque así es mucho más rico, ¿no? Y ya después se hace el ejercicio final de hacer la presentación, que es una manera también de socialización y de que se apodere, se apropie más bien toda la oficina de este ejercicio, es decir, de los resultados y de los compromisos que estamos asumiendo para resolver los riesgos, ¿no? Para mitigar los riesgos.
Ok, Tatiana, gracias, Celia.
Puedo ajustar este cronograma con Rolo y ya les mandaríamos toda la documentación para empezar. Lo que me da un poco más de tranquilidad es haberlo escuchado a Rush, y creo que no estamos con tanto, con el problema de tener que hacerlo todo muy rápido. O sea, podríamos extendernos un poco más.
¿Puedo hacer una consulta? Perdón. Soy Mónica. Sí, una consulta. Este trabajo en grupos, porque en los documentos que he visto son 36 ítems, incluyendo los de fraude, ¿no? Los que se analiza. Este trabajo de grupos va a ser también por grupos de riesgos para que luego completemos entre todos, o todos vamos a hacer toda la matriz. Eso no me queda muy claro, porque podría ser interesante, perdón, Tati, que con la metodología de revisión cruzada entre grupos, más bien, digamos, el grupo 1 revisa, no sé, los riesgos del 1 al 11, el grupo 2 del 12 al 13, y luego se complementan, ¿sí?
Sí.
¿A ti puedes presentar grupos, tal vez?
Sí, aquí, perdón, sí, aquí están los grupos. Hemos organizado por áreas de riesgo, por ejemplo, todo lo que es lo que nos mostró Rash, ¿no? De las relaciones con donantes, temas de reputación, etcétera. Tenemos un líder de equipo asignado y un equipo que va a apoyar, ¿no? Entonces, para que no sea muy, porque el ejercicio es bastante complejo, son muchas áreas de riesgo. Entonces, en el grupo 2 son estas áreas que se van a ver, va a estar liderado por Celia y el equipo que la va a acompañar. Yo les voy a mandar esta información por correo. Como les digo, son 5 grupos. No, perdón, sí, son 5, en el que le estamos dando mucho énfasis porque creemos que es una área que puede ser riesgosa de acuerdo a los resultados que tuvimos el año pasado es la que yo le mencionaba a Rush de los wrongdoings, ¿no? Donde están también todos los temas de abuso sexual y hay algunas cosas que no son muy fáciles de hacer la mitigación de riesgos. No sé si esto responde a tu pregunta, Mónica.
Sí, y justamente, sí, era lo que proponía, digamos, ¿no? Que haya, y en la revisión cruzada de grupos vamos a ir completando, podemos revisar lo del otro grupo, complementarlo,
Sí,
y se va tejiendo, ¿no? Qué bien. Ya, gracias, Tati. Muchas gracias.
Tati, otra pregunta que tenía es que siempre tenemos que considerar contextos locales de oficinas a nivel de departamento. Y eso sí, sí hay particularidades para uno de departamentos, por ejemplo, que ese riesgo solamente aplica a ese departamento, tenemos que también incluir, pero diciendo que eso para X, ¿no? Departamento X, aplicable
sí,
solo.
sí.
Esto, ¿cómo vamos a hacer? Porque
Lo
creo
importante
que
es que cada
sí.
grupo Rincó tiene a alguien de los departamentos, están mezclados los grupos. Entonces, esperamos que los colegas puedan alimentar, ¿no? Este análisis para poner esa información y hay que ver muy bien en la redacción, en ese template, que quede claro que se refiere a determinada oficina de proyecto, ¿no?
Está bien. ¿Ese template vamos a hacerlo en español o...?
En español,
Sí,
sí.
okay.
Yo creo que es mejor hacerlo. Además que como no es mandatorio para nosotros y solamente hay que mandarlo al ACRO, entonces lo mandamos en español. No veo ningún problema con eso.
Ok, está bien. Muchísimas gracias, Tatiana y Rolando, para esta planificación. Si no hay otras preguntas, creo que todos estamos no clara para próximos pasos. No veo ninguna pregunta. Sí.
Sí.
Ok,
Okay,
Tatiana,
bueno,
¿sí?
muchas gracias.
Ya
Hemos
podemos
cumplido el
cerrar.
tiempo.
Muchísimas gracias.
Ok, que tengan un rico almuerzo.
Muchísimas gracias. Buen
Gracias.
provecho.
Gracias,
Buen
provecho. Buen
provecho.
provecho.
Gracias.
Hasta luego, gracias.
Hasta luego.
Hasta luego, gracias.
Gracias, hasta luego.
Hasta luego, gracias.
Hasta luego, gracias.